Dr. Nancy Furness, and I'm here today with Dr. Amy Lubick. We're in front of James Moore's office in Port Moody, and we're here as part of a rally. It's to defend our climate and defend our communities. It's a national day of action with over 130 rallies held simultaneously across Canada. So we're all here in solidarity with other Canadians to speak up and to send a strong, clear message to both our federal and provincial governments.
We're here because we oppose pipeline expansion and tar sands expansion and tanker expansion and this runaway climate change that our government is basically funding. We're against having the oil companies going through our backyards and going through our pristine environment. And there are thousands of Canadians with us. We believe that there's a path to a safe, clean, and just economy that's not based on dirty energy. And the government needs to get into that and get away from funding the oil companies.
Here in British Columbia, we're blessed with an incredible environment, and it's up to us to make sure that that's protected for both our use as well as for future generations. Also, around the pipelines and tankers issues, there are really serious concerns about human rights, First Nation rights, and we would like to have those addressed as well. First Nations need to be consulted, and that's something that we're willing to stand in solidarity with our First Nations to make sure that that happens. So today we want to send a very strong, clear message to both our federal and provincial governments. We need to let them know that we are no longer going to stand by silently while they continue to engage in reckless and irresponsible resource extraction, leading ultimately to runaway climate change. Oh, Today, as well as that song, I'll have a prayer in my heart for healing for Mother Earth and for our sacred land and our sacred water. I also pray for all of us here and everyone that is at this exact type of rally today nationally. I pray for my community and this community and all the other communities that are affected and impacted by these proposed gigantic pipeline projects from the tar sands in Alberta. Projects like Enbridge, Northern Gateway, Kinder Morgan's Trans Mountain Pipeline Project, Keystone XL. Our connection to the environment at Tsleil-Waututh is an integral part of our culture, and everything that we do and everything that we believe in stems from and it is a part of the inlet and the traditional lands. My ancestors would say a long time ago that when the tide goes out, the table is set. We were abundant and rich with seafood, fish, and seaweed. We were a very rich and striving people, and my granddaughter here will never experience that at the rate that we're going. Their proposal to turn the traditional territory of Tsleil-Waututh Nation into an industrial port will affect the landscape, the animals, the drinking water, the ocean, the shoreline, the fish. And if we say yes to these pipeline projects, we're also saying yes to emitting greenhouse gases into the air and being a huge contributor to the climate change, not just at the tar sands, but where the crude oil is extracted, but globally. Tsleil-Waututh Nation is not totally against industry. As you can see out on our inlet, we've got Shell, Chevron, Kinder Morgan, we've got a coal port, we've got a chemical plant. standing here today to tell you that we're overboarded. We're overburdened. Enough is enough. So I encourage everyone here and around nationally to say no to the pipeline project. It lifts my heart to see you all here, and it gives my heart hope that standing here today, we're saying yes to Mother Earth. Haitsapka Tsiaman Tsiaya.
Okay, we're here today to remind the National Energy Board that people all across Canada remain as opposed to the Enbridge pipeline project as we were last year this time. We have not given up. We want to stop that pipeline. That pipeline would cross the territory of First Nations who are opposed to it. It would cross hundreds of streams and kilometers of wilderness across northern BC and put our north coast at risk from a catastrophic oil spill. But it's not just Enbridge that we're opposed to. The people in Port Moody are also opposed to the Kinder Morgan pipeline, which would... This pipeline would triple the capacity of their existing pipeline and deliver diluted bitumen from the tar sands to the Westridge terminal in Burnaby. From there, it would be shipped overseas. It would lead to an increase of over 400 oil tankers every year in beautiful Burrard Inlet and our Salish Sea. And that would pose a huge risk of an oil spill that could damage our environment. That's unacceptable. We're here because we care about the future and we want to stop global warming. The Harper government has embarrassed us by pulling Canada out of the Kyoto Protocol, by eliminating habitat protection for fish, by stopping critical research projects, and by muzzling scientists. That's unacceptable. We need to have a future that's sustainable for the future, not one based on dirty tar sands oil. We're here because we care about the future. Future generations need to inherit a world as bountiful as the one that we have enjoyed. We want to pass on to our children rivers that still have salmon in them, an ocean that still has whales in it, a strong and stable economy based on renewable energy resources. That's what we want, and that's why we're here today to say no to Enbridge, no to Kinder Morgan, no to Harper.
Our sincere thanks to you, Elaine Golds, for speaking out. It's always appreciated and always good to hear the voice of sanity. Our next speaker, I would like to introduce Jane Thompson. Jane has had hands-on experience dealing with wildlife in distress, and she's going to speak to that issue today. Thanks.
Thank you.
We all know that one of the biggest victims when it comes to an oil spill is wildlife. So just what does the BC government and these oil corporations have in place when it comes to dealing with wildlife that have been affected by an oil spill? And the answer is virtually nothing. There is no legislation, no law that says the responsible party of an oil spill must do anything when it comes to oiled wildlife. Shame. They'll tell you, yes, when it comes to the environment, we're mandated to clean up the environment. But that does not include wildlife. It is only a recommendation. Shame. One of my first experiences in dealing with oiled wildlife actually involved a pigeon that was brought to a care facility where I was volunteering at the time. This was a big eye-opener into the complexities and hard work that is involved in simply cleaning up one small oiled bird. It takes a lot of work, a lot of resources, things that we just don't have here in Canada. The proposed routes of the tankers and the proposed routes of the pipelines are in very remote areas, areas where there's a very significant bird population and critical wildlife habitat. So when an oil spill happens in these areas, what happens to the oil wildlife there? Well, let's think. With no laws, no funds set aside, no trained professionals here in Canada, no equipment, no resources, what do we expect to see happening to the wildlife that is affected by these oil spills? I don't think I need to tell you. They die. In closing, I would just like to say that I'm here today and I'm proud to stand with you on behalf of all the victims of wildlife and the victims to be, and to say no to the Enbridge pipeline, no to the Kinder Morgan pipeline. How can anybody in their right mind say that our criteria has been met when there is nothing in place to deal with the wildlife that have been affected from the oil spill? Shame on them. Thank you very much.